I think we are live now.
Awesome.
Okay, hello everyone. I'm Sunil Kumar Das and welcoming you all to the new episode of the SUNIL Show. On this podcast, we dive into the exciting world of IT and project management, from discussing project management, product development, business analysis, to exploring the latest in trending technologies. We cover it all. Whether you are a professional or just starting out in this tech industry, this podcast is your go-to resource for practical insight, expert tips, and engaging discussions. Subscribe us on YouTube and join us on the show for a valuable knowledge and inspiration to propel your career forward. So today I'm excited to welcome our guest, Waldemar. It's great to have you here. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Sunil. Thanks for having me. Hello, everybody.
Okay, so today, everyone, we will be discussing all about leadership. We'll cover some of the topics from project management, but we'll deep dive into leadership. Before we begin or dive into the discussion, so Waldemar, why don't you quickly introduce yourself and walk us through your expertise to our audience quickly?
Thanks, Sunil. Yeah, my name is Waldemar Zimmer. I'm originally coming from Kazakhstan. Actually, I'm born in Kazakhstan, but raised in Germany. So if anybody's wondering of the German surname, that's the explanation. Currently, I'm based in Italy. A little bit about myself. I have 17 years experience in a corporate. So I've started actually from the workshop. I was a mechanic, then started to be interested more in a more complex engineering. So I graduated in mechanical engineering, then started with project management, worked my way up through the organization, through project management, sales, after sales. Then I became sales director, managing director, and my last job I have been responsible for research and development. I've been always working in the field of automated machinery, so mainly in packaging, afterwards also in an automotive sector. So, but since last year, I'm working for myself, self-employed as business coach and consultant, mainly focusing on talent development. So I help companies and organizations to develop talent development programs, to develop and deliver them, of course. So working a little bit with young talents, also with senior talents. And yeah, my main expertise lays in leadership and coaching. So yeah, looking forward to share a little bit about those topics today.
That's brilliant. The brilliant, achievements you have and the career transition. I would like to go back to one thing. Now, as you mentioned, certainly we will be dealing with people and the leadership skills today. But I would like to emphasize on one thing. You started your career as a mechanic, right? You are directly dealing with the customers, right? So was that true?
Yes.
Okay. Now, during that period when you were dealing with customers directly, will you would have lot of work in terms of customer facing. Now, transitioning that particular skills here, you working as a leader or a project manager. So, how did you transfer that skill here, and how did you utilize this? How did it help you
You mean
transfer
how?
your skills or customer facing skills?
You mean how it transited into leadership? Just to make sure
Correct. Yeah.
that I got the question. Well, I mean, facing customers in actually all of my roles was an important part, and it was actually something that I really liked because it's exposing you to, first of all, to different cultures, because I have been always working in an international context and international environment. So it was very helpful for me to know different people, to know different reactions of people based on the cultural backgrounds, based on the educational backgrounds. So it helped me certainly a lot in terms of getting a feeling of how people actually, how to adapt also myself to their behavior. Because I think, when we speak about, you always have to be like genuine yourself, you have to be true, and you have to don't change yourself. This is a bit difficult in my opinion, because I think if you want to deal with people, somehow you have to adapt, which does not mean that you have not to be your true self, but it has to be an adaptation towards their culture, towards their communication, towards what they are actually um, what they are as a human. So certainly, it gave me a lot of important insights of working from the very beginning to the very end, and still doing with a lot of customers and a lot of people, basically. Yeah, customers, colleagues, cultures. Yeah.
That's brilliant. Okay, so we will start with something called something very basic but yet very important. We
Mhm.
have very misconception about leadership. When we say a leader or in the leadership position, we often misconcept kind of with somebody has a superior designation in the organization or the hierarchy, right? So how do you justify this one, or how can you explain what leadership is all about, right?
Mm.
Versus somebody having a designation at very superior level, right? We have both these verticals. So what's your thought on this?
Yeah, you actually got it quite on point, Sunil. So there are basically two misconceptions, in my opinion, in terms of leadership. The first one is that the leader has to be a certain person in the organization, or somebody who has actually a team to manage or whatever. So in my opinion, starting let's from the base is that everybody can be a leader. Okay, so being a leader does not mean to have a certain role, position, a title in an organization. So just to explain that better, so what makes a leader actually? A leader makes somebody you want to follow. Okay, so you want to follow a person, and that's a leader. And we as a human beings, we have that need. We have a need to be with a tribe. We have a need to belong to somebody, or to a team. So the sense of belonging. So even if it's in the pyramid of Maslow, it's like on the third level or something. But I think if we look on the community, if we look on the people relationships, it's the very first basic need that we have, the need of belonging. So people naturally are searching for somebody they want to follow. So you can be a leader in any position, in any context, in any situation, and in your family, in your work life. So you can be basically the leader that people want to follow by actually giving them something that is fulfilling their needs. Okay, so you have to give them a reason to follow you. And so that's my, let me say, my basic opinion about leadership. So when we transfer this to a context of work and business, of course, there we have hierarchy, we have organizations. So leaders are typically somebody who have to manage a team, a large team, small team, whatever. But there again, it's the same thing. So if you want to be a good leader, you have actually to be a servant. You have to be serving people needs. Okay, and if you do so, people will be following you. And the title and the position you have is actually just a small detail in the world of leadership, in my opinion.
Correct. That's very true. However, nowadays we are, when we read the PMBOK. So recently, PMI has more, emphasizing on agile
Mm,
methodology or the framework. There we have a concept called servant leaders.
yeah.
So, how would you explain or justify servant leadership from the project management standpoint versus the leadership itself from the management point, standpoint? Are they both are same, or they have some difference between, or what exactly it is? Or leadership is something very superior concept, and servant leadership is derived from it. So, how exactly you suggest, support for this one?
Mm. So yeah, well, how do I best answer that? So in my opinion, the servant leadership, when you look at it into the context of project management, it's it's certainly deriving from like business leadership. But in my opinion, it's servant leadership. I always like to somehow combine it to something that is like situational leadership, because it's In general, I struggle a little bit with all these definitions of leadership styles, because I think in general it's very difficult to identify leadership styles, because we are leading human people, and we are leading humans, and as we are humans, we are all have different needs, we all have different skills, so it's very difficult to apply a specific leadership style on everybody. So that's why some people are easier to deal with, some people are not so easy to deal with, because if we apply the same leadership style, then we have a risk that we have somehow not the right balance in terms of leadership towards certain people. If we go into a mindset of situational leadership, which means I always analyze the needs, the skills, and the task that I'm gonna assign to somebody, and I also consider the people or the person behind that task, then I have a clearer picture of what kind of leadership I can apply. So if I have a more senior colleague who has experience, probably I will be supportive, but I will delegate it and forget about it. If you have a certain younger professional, maybe a coaching leadership or supportive leadership style is more adequate to help this person to fulfill his tasks. And I see it similar in project management. I see it similar in what you said, the servant leadership. So to really focus on what is the environment and what is the condition, the current condition of people, of environment, project that we want to manage, and then adapting based on that the right leadership that actually gives us the best results. So rather than
Correct.
thinking I'm going to start with a leadership style that probably will not work out best. So that's how I think about that.
Yeah, that's great explanation here. So when we go for identifying the particular leadership style which will fit to the box,
Mm-hmm.
given the current situation or the requirement, right? So we must come across certain criteria or condition or techniques to evaluate that situation, to come
Mm-hmm.
to a conclusion, okay, this is the right leadership style which will fit into the situation. Now, to help with, so what would be your strategies or points that you would suggest to our audience? Okay, these are the certain conditions you have to go for, or you have to follow. These are the processes to evaluate the situation, to identify the right leadership style.
Mm-hmm. So how I do it is I always start with the task itself. So I have a certain task that I have to assign to my people. So I'm thinking, okay, which would be clearly the right people, the right person to assign this task to. Okay, so you're basically first thing that you assess is the task versus the skills that you have on the table. Ideally, you assign this task to somebody who has the skills to do what you want them to do. So first thing, task and the skill. The second, which derives basically from the skill, is to understand how deep is the skill level and how deep is the experience of this person, and this will determine the way you will lead and the way you will support this person. So basically,
Correct.
the situational leadership style or the situation leadership actually has four phases. So when you start basically from coaching until to the full delegating. So, and in between you have the supportive leadership style, and so basically, I choose on those three. So first is the task, then I see what is the skill of the people, and based on their skill level, I decide which leadership style to apply. So whether to, which is in simple words saying how much support do I really provide to this person to fulfill the task that I assigned to them. So either it's starting from coaching, so really like being there, explaining, helping, supporting, until you have a senior guy. He just need to tell him, here, please do that, and you can fully trust that the job is done. So this is pure delegation. But yeah, this is basically what I would suggest to do, really looking at what is the task. If you want to add a little bit of of complexity to it, we can do that by also assessing, of course, what is the current environment. And environment, I mean, what is the current work environment, and what is maybe also the environment of the person you are assigning the task to. Let me explain better. If you have this guy, which you usually is always high performing, you can actually give him or her any tasks. If this person has a bad day, if this person has maybe not so much energy because they have already a high workload, or maybe it's a task that is related to a very critical business situation which could have a certain impact on the person. So there is always, again, dealing with human beings, there's always this kind of human factor that somehow needs to be considered, but it's very difficult, of course, except if you have large teams. If you have a small team of 2 3 people, you can have a very good idea of what is their current emotional state, because you can really deal with that also during coffee chats and so on. But if you have like 70 80 people, of course you cannot assess the emotional state of everybody every day. Yeah.
Right. That's great. Yes, spot on. You explained it very nicely. So, other thing to discuss about the leadership style. Now, you have transitioned a lot of job roles, in your career. So, when you moved from point A to B to C to D, right? What was your leadership style, and what sort of principles guided your approach? So, could you share some experience, whether some mentor who has influenced you in terms of building your own leadership style?
Mm. That's a great question. I mean, of course, we can divide those transition in 2 parts. I think the first one is like a transition that was mainly driven by the company, by the organization. So classically, you're promoted, or they offer you a new job, a new position, other department. So something that probably was not directly somehow initiated by myself. And then we have the transition where I directly decided to move to a certain role, or change my job, change company, change business. So those are the 2 types, 2 categories. So just to give one example for each one, in my opinion, that was somehow helpful, and how it also went. I mean, I had very, very great mentors and sponsors in my career. So just to give also a little bit to the audience the difference. So the mentor is somebody that guides you through advice, and if you can rely to this person, it's a very trustful relationship. I had recently a discussion also on another podcast about the importance of mentorship, and how challenging it sometimes can be to find a good mentor and to create this relationship. But luckily, I had some couple of people that helped me a lot with really great advice. And on the other hand, which is also important, and in my case it was very important, because I did a quite fast career, and I did it, of course, thanks to the effort I put in. But to be very frank, there were also other people who were putting the same effort, maybe. But in my case, it was also a very, very strong sponsorship from senior managers. And sponsorship means, basically, to say it simple, somebody who talks about you when you're not in the room. So somebody who brings your name to a table where the big people are sitting and deciding about which positions to move and who will be in the driving seat. So that was very, very important, because otherwise I think certain jobs and certain career advancement wouldn't have happened. So my advice is to everybody who is working in corporate or in general, is to find a mentor, to work with mentors. And everybody can be a mentor. It's not only about having people you have to pay for. So you can actually find mentors in your close relationships with colleagues, friends, family. And on the other hand, oh, Sunil is gone. Okay, guys, I think it's Now you're back.
Come back to,
Yeah,
was
yeah.
some,
We
yeah,
just lost you for a second. So
discontinued.
yeah, to for the sponsorship for and the second person or second person I would really suggest to find is a sponsor. So and this is also a challenging thing to be, but it's really important. I think that you have a sponsor and somebody who helps you to advance. This is really like the very important thing that was a true game changer for me. When it comes to career changes or advancement that I initiated, of course, there is a lot of personal development behind it. So also knowing what you want and how to get there. And I think it's actually a lot about self-awareness to know actually when do you want to do and why you want to do certain things. And I've called it years ago like a personal vision to see yourself in 5-10 years time. Where do you want to be and which how do you see that person? Okay.
Right.
And so at a certain point, when you have this clear picture, which has not to be very clear, like, okay, I have to have this role in this company, it can be very, yeah, with some ideas, let me say. My idea was when I started career, I wanted to be a CEO, I wanted to work in a large company, I wanted to have international experience, like all this stuff. So anytime that I find myself in a situation where I had to make a decision, I always ask myself, okay, is this decision that I have to make A or B? Which of the two paths aligns with who I want to be in 6, 7, 8 years? And this helps you to make um, a more like self-aware and intentional decision, and not just a rational decision, because sometimes you get presented two job opportunities and one is high paying and the other is high benefits. And when we are deciding on a rational basis, we're like, of course I go for the one that is paying higher, but probably it's not the one which aligns most with what you want to do and who you want to be in 10 years. So that's definitely a big thing that came into my life a little bit later. So I think I was already in my 30s. So that's something actually that I teach now a lot to young talents, because I think if you have this in the younger age, you can really do stuff that is very important in your life.
Right. You rightly said this one, this particular point, realizing this, but at this point, money is not, no, every time it's not important,
Yeah.
right? So we have other stuff too. So pointing on to this particular point again, when we have two distinct, kind of competitive offers, one with paying, high salary along with other one with the different perks or different benefits. So it is taking decision is also it takes lot of courage,
Mm.
maturity level, right, and lot of factors involved. Now to compare against, we have to have a long term goal, as you mentioned. So one particular point which is fascinating is high salary, and the second thing is with lot of benefits, right? But when we have the right decision making skills, which will
Mm.
help us to choose the right one for us. So, what are the different factors here we should consider? Not only money or not only the benefits. So, what are the different factors you can categorize so that people can learn from it, they can take
Mm.
notes, and then apply in the real life?
Mm. Great question, Sunil. I think, as you said, it's certainly there are a lot of people who are motivated by money and, let me say, nice things and benefits, and which is absolutely fine, because there was a time in my life where I was there as well. And usually, those people, when you arrive at a certain level, you understand, okay, there are also other things that are probably more important. But if we boil it down to what is important, I think everybody should understand what are our motivational drivers. So at the end of the day, I think it comes always, a lot of people are speaking about what is your passion, what fulfills your life, what is something that you really like to do. And it's something that is really really hyped, but on the other hand I want really to give a more practical explanation of that, because not everybody will be able to find his passion, but I think everybody somehow will be able to find something that motivates him or her to get
Correct.
up in the morning, to go to work, and to do what they need to do every day. So, and this is something that can change, of course. So we're not talking about this is my passion and I'm going to do it all my life. So I transited from mechanical engineering to now business coaching and working more with people and talent development. So it's a completely different ball game. And I don't know for how long I'm going to do this. Maybe in 10 years I will do something else. But this is something that is currently motivating me. So I think deep in us we need to understand what are our motivational drivers. And there are certain categories, there are a lot of tests and tools also that people can use to identify those things, and they actually will determine what's more important for you. Is it more important to have freedom? Is it more important to build something? Is it more important to have a higher income? Is it more important to be an expert in something, being somebody who really knows what to do and how to do, so the go-to person for something? um, and this will help somehow to identify and fell these decisions, okay, where I want to go. So in my case it was I quit my corporate job last year, and I quit it. I had a high paid job, so it was not for the money that I transited, but I had a basic need. The motivation was I want to build something, I want to do something that has an impact. And so that's my motivational driver right now. And I think people need to identify those things. They really need to understand what's motivating me, what is the thing that I really like to do today. And let's not talk about passion, and it's already sufficient to understand what makes me really get up in the morning and do stuff.
Brilliant one. See, when we discuss about this thing, now one important thing, point comes to my mind is about taking risk, right?
Mhm.
Whatever work we do, whatever path we choose to go on,
Mm.
definitely there are some risks, or there will be some risks involved in it, right? Now, given our age or the maturity level or the surrounding we are in, right? We are capable of taking risks. That's one thing.
Mm.
But not every time we are getting succeed. In
Mm.
some situation, we are stepping back because we are afraid to take risk. In
Yeah.
that situation, we are willing to go ahead, but there is something which is holding us back,
Mm.
right? And that's when a point comes in called calculated risk. You take the risk, but you understand, or you have to have a calculation behind it, so that you understand the equation of it. What are
Mm.
the different parameters involved in it? Now,
Yeah.
could you light on something, the particular point called calculated risk? What exactly it is, how different it is, and how good it is, blindly taking, against blindly taking risk.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, there is this famous wording, sometimes not taking the risk is the biggest risk. So
Correct.
that's actually very funny, and I think it's precise because but as you say, just to start with what you just said, is sometimes we want to do things and we cannot, or we feel we cannot, because there are certain aspects that need to be considered. So first of all, what helped me to take risk is, okay, if there is something that I want really to try, I call it, is it safe to try? So the question is it safe to try? And you can ask it to everything in your life, basically small decisions, big decisions, life changing decisions. And what does it mean? Is it safe to try? It means if I do it and I fail, what will happen? That's basically the question. So some people are saying, is it reversible? So if it's reversible, you can try it. In my opinion, it doesn't has to be necessarily reversible. So you can also take a risk. If it's not working out, okay, we don't go back to the old situation, but at least we will not damage or harm the our life or situation. So we will not create any condition that is probably difficult to deal with. In most of times, it can happen that you get this answer, no, it's not safe to try. So what happens next? I call it like making an impact plan. Or what I did also in my career transitions, the last big one that I did was from corporate to self-employment. So there is clearly one risk is economic risk. What if I don't earn enough money? The other risk is what if I have a problem and I cannot work, so I have not the safety from a corporate and so on. So there have been certain risks that are actually could be very, very difficult to manage in case things goes wrong. But what helped me was is creating this impact plan. It means, okay, if I want to do something and I have to take a risk, which areas of my life are impacted? Okay, the economic, the family aspect, the work aspect. So really to think about what will actually change, and then to understand, okay, those things changed. Now we have to understand how to make them safe. Okay, how to make them safe to try in order to somehow lose this fear of taking the risk. So it gives you the control of of the situation, and that's actually what we want, because taking a risk is having losing control actually. And he's gone again.
I think there's something is not good here with the network, but yeah, I'm back now.
Yeah, you will lost you 1 second. No, I was just concluding that I think that taking a risk is basically having the fear of not being in control. And when we are able to establish through these steps a sense of control, then we are more willing to take the risk, which does not make the risk smaller, but it will make us feel more secure in taking the risk.
That's great. That's great. One other thing, one other advice I would seek from you, right? What advice would you give to the aspiring leaders? Like all the project managers there, those who are at the very beginning of their career, who are looking to enhance their cross-cultural management skills, those who would like to manage a team, right?
Mm.
Nowadays, given this remote working culture, people are
Yeah.
working in very diverse time zones, different time zones. So given this nature of work culture now, so what would be your advice to the new PMs or the new leaders,
Yeah,
if you
that's
or to make it very specific, if you give 5 tips in
mhm.
an order wise, so what it would be?
For me, I really can speak from experience. I can tell you all the 5 tips that I'm going to give you are actually raising from 5 of my fears, okay, and how I managed to overcome them. When I became a first-time leader, my first fear was I was 29 years old. I had to manage very senior people, so I was afraid that I'm not be able to do that. And the approach that I used with those people was that they are smarter than me, that I didn't want to teach them anything, and that I'm one of them and I actually want to support them. So really present yourself. First thing, be really humble about what you do, who you are, what you know, because I think there's always somebody who knows more than you. Really being a lifelong learner, being humble, showing this real humbleness about I'm open to learn, but I'm here not to teach you. I'm here just to help you to do a better job. So first, really be humble. Don't, even if you're the leader, even if you are on top, don't be somebody who look down to the team. Be on the same level. Second advice that I would give to people is to be always available. So whenever people are coming into your office, whenever they call you, whenever they write you, your first and always priority should be taking care of the people. So whenever if you're in task, and sometimes it's difficult, you're in the task, you're in the mail, somebody's coming into your office, somebody's calling you, and you're like, no, it's not a good moment. Think about that twice, because the people should be always the priority and not any task that you have to do. That's the second. The third advice, or third advice that I would give is, if you are, especially if you're a young leader, as you said, if you are a first time leader, um, try to bring your people together as much as possible. Try to create this sense of team, of uniting them. And you mentioned before, now it's becoming more and more difficult because you have remote locations. You have, so find a way where you show people this availability, that they are not only when they are searching you proactively, but be present, be always present, show that you are there for them. So, and not only when they are looking for you. So look for them, be there. Fourth advice, know your people's needs. That's a very, very important one. So, as I said before, if you want that people follow you, you need to give them something. You need to give them a reason to follow you. And the only thing to do that is you have to fulfill their needs. So, nobody will follow you because you're barking orders or telling them what to do. They will follow you if they know you are there to help them, you are there for them, you are there to support them, and they will help you to be a better leader, and they will follow you. So really know the people's needs means talk to them, observe them, understand them, treat them individually, not like that's my team, everybody is same. Try to really look at everybody, get to know everybody. I know it's kind of difficult if you have large teams, again, but if you're in a fortunate situation where you have a smaller team, take a lot of time to really know your people, because this is something that will be always worth. And last tip is more like organization, practical, maybe for not related to the people you're managing, but the people who you are responding to. And there is also an important thing that was that gave me also was quite good success in my personal career, professional career, was to be very, very how would you say that, to be very open and direct on what are your strengths and weaknesses. So it's good to protect the team, but it's also important to say when things are not going well. But here comes the message. The team is you, so responsibility is yours. If you are the leader, you respond to everybody's mistakes, not only to your own. So that's a very important thing to know. And especially when you're transiting from a peer to a leader, this can be very difficult because you're still in the mindset, okay, but this was a mistake that John did. No, if John is in your team, it's also your problem and your mistake. So accountability and responsibility. Yeah.
Those are spot on. Those are brilliant. Thank you so much. Now you mentioned one thing, one very important thing. When you are in the peer level and you're transitioning, you're moving from peer to the leadership level. You'll be managing your own team. Those who previous day, those who you have worked with,
Mm,
and that
yeah.
phase for some people it is very difficult for them to accept you as a leader because
Yeah.
they know your flaws. They know about your their coffee partner. However, in this situation, you have to leave that mindset and you have to upskill yourself for the leadership. You have to accept yourself as a leader and you have to lead your team now.
Mm.
Given this transitioning period, what are the critical factors one must take care of?
Yeah, that's a spot on question, Sunil. I think everybody's asking this question. I'm actually working with a few leaders right now who are in this transition, and I'm coaching them. And those topics are popping out very well. And I give you a very, very recent example. And this guy was telling me he was promoted 1st of April, and he had the first meeting with his former peers, and now he's their boss. And they were telling him, and he was actually wanting to make clear a bit of the expectation. And he asked, okay, what can I do, how should I do things as a leader? And they were saying, no, no, all good, nothing changed. It's all it's all right. You stay like you are, and so on. But then when we had the session, I was asking him, but do you think that nothing changed? And he was like thinking and said, no, one thing changed, because now I'm not anymore their colleague. I'm not the peer, I'm the leader. And I was like, yes. So how does this change affect your relationship? And then problems came up very quick, which are basically that they are still referring not to him as their leader, but
Boss.
to the other guy who is now one step higher. So classic examples. And what I really, really recommend to everybody is, first thing to do, make expectations clear. So team meeting and one-on-ones with everybody, and telling them very clear, okay guys, we are now in a different relationship. Okay, in terms of human relationship, nothing has to change, of course, because it's not from the leader, and from there the relationship, especially if it's a good relationship, should be the same. But you have certainly to identify ground rules and boundaries. Very simple stuff like, okay, how is the reporting will be going, how to communicate in case I'm sick, I will be not on time, I will have to ask for vacation, um, what are the results I expect from you, how we expect to work with each other. All this stuff needs to be really clarified since the beginning. Otherwise, the result will be that they will just work as usual. And then there will be certain moments where this situation will not be ideal, because they will forget about him or her to be their leader, and then the leader get upset. So in my opinion, it's basically a very easy problem to solve when you straight from the beginning communicate, set the expectations, how certain things needs to be done. And of course there needs to be mutual respect. The people need to understand that this person is now their leader, their boss. So if there has been a certain communication which was more like a friendship, now it can stay as a friendship when the people are between them. But in if there are other people in the room, somehow they need to respect those hierarchy. It's unfortunately it's like that how it's working to companies. So, and I've been there too. I have been, the last team that I have managed was 27 people, and they were almost all the same age like me, and we had a huge fun together. But sometimes it's we have to keep it professional. There you go.
I'm back again. My apologies. Okay, let's continue.
Okay, I just concluded that yeah, so, I have been friends with these 27 people that I've been managing, and we had a lot of fun. And even outside the work, we went for drinks, we had fun. But as every time we went back to work, we kept it very professional. So that's, I think, how it should be. And yeah, to make it short, really set clear expectations. What do you expect from them, and how they what they expect from you now also as a leader. So really open question to them: how do you expect me now to manage you guys? And I think that's a good way to start that transition.
Exactly. Yeah. So setting clear expectation will definitely help us in terms of building relationships. Often if we are upfront with that truthfulness, and if we are able to explain what exactly this role is all about and how different it is, and how setting this boundary, then
Hmm.
definitely it will be really helpful. It is spot on. Thank you.
Yeah.
So something, we as a leader, we always strive for effective leadership,
Hmm.
right? We work on, we upskill ourselves. There's something again when we are working with our team, we try to build a innovative team or innovation or fostering innovation in our teams, right?
Hmm.
However, in these 2 points, effective leadership and fostering innovation teams or innovation environment for our teams. What is the linkage or what is the connection between that? Because when we are fostering an innovative environment, we have to again take care of the constraints that we have or the organizational constraints we have, right?
Yeah.
One side, you have to take care of or be mindful of the constraints you have. Alongside, you have to foster that to your team. That's what your job role is. So, what's the connection between that, and how do you maintain a balance between these two things?
Yeah, yeah, that's a wonderful question. I mean, first, as an individual leader, so you need. I think the most important asset of a leader, and especially when we come to innovation and we come to doing things differently, is the mindset. So it's something that you really adapt to an innovation mindset. For me, what does it mean? It means that you're open to new things, that you're open to risk, that you're open to really consider everything what is maybe not your comfort zone, what is maybe not what you already know. So, as I said previously, a lifelong learning approach, having this open mindset, and when you're adapting this, you automatically will transit this kind of mindset into your team, showing them that you're open for their ideas as well, their contribution, and that you're open for even the strange ideas that somebody maybe can have, and that you're not judgmental, that you give and create this kind of environment where innovation really can grow and innovation can happen. So I think it starts definitely with a leader. I have seen teams that had some really really great minds within, but they have not been able to really produce anything different because the leadership was basically extinguishing anything that was new, that was different. So it's important to create this environment, and then maybe your team is also able to adapt new ideas, new innovation. So, but what that does that mean in terms of, you said before also risk, we spoke about the risk, we spoke about effective leadership. So of course, if you are pushing this innovation side too much, it can happen that your effectiveness and your efficiency within the team can drop.
Right.
So it's of course important that the leader is able to somehow balance what is required in terms of get the job done, okay, and at the same time giving possibility to really give fresh ideas, fresh input and innovation. So there is a certain key skill necessary from the leader to somehow balance and to allow innovation, but not to become like a team which all the crazy ideas will consider it, and then you're just going nuts. Yeah, that's certainly not very
Correct.
very
Yeah.
efficient. Yeah.
So again, understanding the boundaries
Yeah.
and setting up the boundaries, both are two important things. When you understand the boundaries, you will not cross or divert from your track. And when you set the boundaries, you will not let people do that. So
Yeah.
that's how I think it will be. You will be able to create the balance in the right way. Yeah, that's fantastic. You know. Okay, I think we discussed all about leadership. So many points around it, and I think it's a very vast field where hours of discussion weren't able to complete everything. But yeah, certainly we have covered pretty much most of the things, you know. And I would love to continue this one. However, we are approaching towards the time, so let's go something little off topic.
Hmm.
And I would like to understand something about you now. So, what's a hobby or interest that you have developed recently that brings you joy outside of your work?
That I developed recently. Recently. Well, it's actually not that recently, but I have been in combat sports for a while, and
That's interesting.
I added I've been doing boxing and kickboxing, Thai boxing for 16 years, something like that. But
Oh,
recently I added grappling and Brazilian jiu-jitsu to that in during COVID period basically, and this is a very fantastic workout. So I that's if that's yeah, if that's recent, I would say that that is something that I added, and it's a very great workout. Still not practicing as much as I wish to, because it requires to go to the training, and sometimes I'm not so flexible on that. But yeah, that's the answer. So yeah, grappling.
that's great. Just quick note to our audience, because of some technical glitch, you know continuously I'm disconnecting in a frequent interval of time. So please bear with me for some time more. I'm not sure it will happen again or not, but yeah. So I'm moving to the next one. That if you could travel anywhere in the world right now,
Mm.
then where would you go and why?
Um, well, I would go to Thailand because
Okay.
because it's a place I wanted to visit for a while now.
You love the vibe of Thailand, or what exactly? What made you go there?
Because I like the food. I heard from many people it's a great place to be. It's in this year period, it's a very great place to stay in terms also of weather. And so I became, since I moved to Italy, I became very addicted to sun and good weather. So I'm very allergic to rain and cold and wind. So that's one reason. I like the combat sports culture, so Muay Thai. I would like to visit those very famous camps that are in Thailand and train with the Thais, and that would be a dream for me. Yeah, so Thailand is definitely the answer. Yeah.
That's interesting. So, what's the most adventurous thing you have done here, and would you do it again?
Can you repeat the question? I didn't get it there.
So, what's the most adventurous thing you have done here, and would you do it again?
The most dangerous.
Adventurous.
Adventurous. Okay, adventure. It's even it's the same. It's also dangerous, really. the
Correct.
most
Yeah.
the most adventurous. Well, I have to admit here, it's not easy to admit it also in front of audience, but I'm very afraid of adventures. So I'm not the guy who's like bungee jumping. So really,
Yeah.
since I was a small kid, I'm very afraid of certain situations. But the most adventurous was my wedding, my honeymoon. My honeymoon, we went to Namibia, Africa, and made a 2 weeks round trip on our own. So me and my wife with 4x4 through the desert. And most adventurous was that I was actually entering a desert with this car, and I was very afraid to get stuck in the sand. And
Oh.
that was very. I remember that my heartbeat was quite at the top, because it was very, because I knew that if I gonna be stuck here, then it will take days till somebody find us or come to save us, because it was really remote. And yeah,
Mhm.
I would do it again, definitely, because it was one of the best experiences ever. And yeah, I think that I would go for that. Yeah, that was the most adventurous.
That's
Yeah.
interesting again. Yeah. Okay. So, what is one of the fun and interesting fact about you that most people wouldn't guess?
Are you still there? I, I think we lost you, Sunil. Yeah, I think you will be right back. There you go.
Back.
Okay, repeat the question, my friend.
Yeah. So, what's the fun or interesting fact about you that most people wouldn't guess?
Fun or interesting fact? Um, that's a difficult question. That's a difficult question. Um, yeah, most of people are getting quite surprised when I'm telling them about my roots. So when I'm telling them that I was born in Kazakhstan, so this is that's actually an interesting fact that opens always a lot of conversation because it's a little bit of yeah not every day you can meet somebody from Kazakhstan. So this is always a nice icebreaker. And what else? I I have I like that's maybe a bit disgusting for somebody, but I like to eat one dish, one specific dish, which is yeah a little bit strange, which is you eat the little hearts of a chicken. Like there's a dish which is cooked with the hearts of a chicken, and I like that. And people are getting very upset when I'm telling them that. So yeah, it's a fun fact,
Okay.
but it's an interesting fact.
So, what is this particular skill set or talent you have always wanted to learn, but you haven't had a chance to do that yet?
Playing guitar.
Apart from your play,
Yeah.
okay. Mhm.
Playing guitar. I started once,
What
but
kind of music you like there?
well, I would. I'm not so much into rock music, but I wanted to play electric guitar. So really, like um, old old school rock, like Metallica, and yeah. That's the AC/DC. Those sounds. I really would like to learn electric guitar. Yeah.
Okay. So, in that note, have you attended any of kind of performance or live concert, and kind of which made you unforgettable?
No, not really. Not really, actually.
No.
No.
Okay. I think with that note, we are going to close this show. However, so before we close this one, what would be what's your strategies who are in the entry level position for the leadership or they're aspiring to become a leader? So what would be your tips for them?
Well, my tip would be don't overcomplicate it. So it means really stay humble, stay human. Leadership is not something that needs to be complex. It's just about human psychology. The basics are very easy. So, in my opinion, yeah, that's the easy way. Don't overcomplicate it. um, just trust in your skills and in your skills as a human being and your people skills. If you're not there, do what needs to be done to develop that. And don't don't think about leadership as a skill that cannot be learned. It can be definitely learned, and it's something that everybody can represent in their lives. So yeah, don't overcomplicate it. It's not so difficult. It's not so yeah, it's not so complex as it's always described. It's about really um, being human and treating others like humans, and you will be a good leader if you do that.
That's very interesting, and it's spot on. When we keep things very simple, very sorted, so it has a higher possibility to get succeed. Whether you're writing a document, you're presenting
Yeah,
something, you're discussing your points, whatever it may be, keep it as very simple, not make it overcomplicated. That's spot on. Thank you, Wagner. Okay, so I think with this note, we are going to conclude this show. Thank you for your time, and it was a really healthy discussion. We discussed a lot about leadership, and I personally learned a lot. Hope the viewers definitely they'll take a lot of notes and they learn a lot from this one. Yeah.
Thanks,
Thanks for your
thanks,
time.
Sunil, for
And
having me. Really, really appreciated that one. Was a lovely conversation, and
yeah, it was a lovely
have a good
conversation
Sunday,
with you,
everybody.
Walter.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Bye now.